Update. Am I wrong for ending a 20-year marriage because I learned my wife cheated on me while we were dating? Original post. My wife, 44 female, and I, 43 male, have been married for 20 years. We started dating in high school when I was a junior and she was a senior. We were long distance for our first 2 years of college. While I was in high school and did 1 year at community college. Then we went to college in the same city for a year and have lived together since. We got married the summer after I graduated college. Our marriage has been pretty great so far, but I initiated a divorce after I discovered that she was sleeping with multiple other men for the 2 years we were long distance. Just after Christmas, we got together with a few friends of hers from college to catch up, have dinner, and hang out. We talked about a lot of stuff, and my wife mentioned that we met in high school. Not that we dated, just that we met. Her old college roommate commented that it was crazy that we met in high school, had a few wild years in college, then ended up together. I played along and commented that I didn't know if my wife was as crazy as I was. The roommate started to tell a story, but my wife cut her off and said she was uncomfortable about it. I sensed something was up, so I said that we actually started dating in high school and we were together for my wife's entire time at college. All of my wife's friends got really quiet, and the rest of the dinner was awkward. On the way out, one of her other roommates took me aside and said I should have an honest conversation about what happened at college. I asked my wife on the way home and she kind of blew me off. I told her it was important that she was honest with me, and again she said it wasn't important. When we got home, I told her I was going to stay at my brother's house until she was ready to talk about what happened in college. The next day, she came over and admitted to sleeping with several men during her first 2 years at college. She said she didn't consider it a big deal at the time because we were long distance, and she didn't think high school romance would last. I pressed for more details, and she said it was at least 10 different men, including at least 3 guys she introduced to me as friends when I came to visit on weekends, and 1 guy she was still in contact with. I told her that I wanted a divorce and would be starting the paperwork as soon as I could, which I did on January 2nd. Her family and most of my family is telling me I shouldn't throw away my marriage over a few mistakes. I've stood by myself that cheating on me with multiple men for years is unacceptable, no matter when it happened. And the fact that she continued to maintain relationships with these guys right in front of me was an unacceptable amount of disrespect. We have 2 children, but they are 17 and 19, and I believe they will understand why I need to end a marriage. Am I wrong for leaving? I feel like I'm going crazy with the amount of people telling me to overlook years of infidelity and decades of lies. Now for the top comments before reading the update. 10 guys can no longer be described as few mistakes. Also, note that she said at least 10 different men. So first of all, the number could easily be 15. Second, the different means that she has slept with some of them, or most of them, multiple times. Some of the guys she probably let OP shake hands with were regular F buddies, and she let her boyfriend hang out with them and went to get plowed when he went home from the visit. She cheated and lied to them, maintained contact with at least one of her buddies and introduced you to many of the guys that were banging her. That is not only dishonest, but cruel. I think you are 100% in the right. Who knows what else she's done? You have no way of knowing. Yeah, that's the part that stuck with me most as well. My marriage ended primarily due to my ex cheating on me. The part that hurt most was that it was with her coworker, someone she made quick friends with and someone who was trying to be friends with me too. We had him and his wife over to hang out, and just him over on multiple occasions. Cheating sucks either way, but to be so brazen about it by waving your affair partner in front of your partner's face is something else. Certainly made me feel like a tool. I wish you the best, OP. Don't let anyone tell you it's not so bad because it was a long time ago. She chose to keep it a secret, and would have continued doing so. I guess she didn't feel that guilty about it. That's not someone you can trust. This makes me recoil, the sheer cruelty of it. How do people cheat? How do people do this? A psychological torture to the one person who loves you more than anything and became your family. They're utterly selfish, driven by lust, and have no regard for anyone but themselves. That's how. Edit. I'm glad I did this with a throwaway because the response here is unexpected. I obviously can't answer every question/comment, but I wanted to provide some detail for common questions. The reason I posted this is that my wife and a few friends have been saying it's common to sleep with other folks when you're in a long-distance relationship, and that I'm kind of the odd one for not sleeping around. I felt like I was being gaslit, but I wanted an outside perspective. We live in a state with a waiting period to finalize a divorce, so I felt it was a reasonable idea to get some insight before things are finalized. After these comments, I see a handful of folks saying it's normal to sleep around during a long-distance relationship, but it seems to be a significant minority. We saw each other a couple of weekends a month during the 2-year college period. I lived about 3 hours away from her college, so it was long distance but not like cross-country. This was not a situation where we went months without seeing each other. The 3 guys I met while she was in college were meetups that happened during parties. The subject of me being a boyfriend didn't really come up, so I honestly don't know if these guys knew anything. The one guy we're still in contact with married a mutual friend from college. This is not some guy she secretly messages on the side, it's somebody we've talked to regularly for years. I've talked to him a few times since I've learned about my wife. He said he didn't know we were dating at a time and has since blocked my wife on social media. Some folks have asked how the roommates didn't realize at our wedding that the timelines didn't work out. The main reason is that my wife and I had a very small ceremony with just close family in Texas, then went back to the East Coast to have a big party with friends. The typical reception/sharing details about how we met stuff didn't really happen, so her roommates didn't realize we started dating before college. It sounds like they thought we only dated for the year we were both in the same city, then moved in together. I was open to therapy or some kind of attempt to save the marriage, but her insistence that this whole thing is common and I'm the one who's out of line is just too much for me. The only time she showed any remorse or even offered to reconcile is when I started filing paperwork. In the last week, she's gone back to saying she's right and I'm overreacting. This is also why I feel like I'm being gaslit. It seems obvious that this is a major issue, but I've got my wife and others telling me it's normal and I'm overreacting. I'm not getting a paternity test unless my kids want to get one. I don't have any doubts that they are biologically mine, and no test will make them not my kids. I love them more than anything in the world, and my wife's infidelity won't change that, even if one or both of them is not biologically mine. They've been my kids for 19 years, and they will be my kids until I stop breathing. Final edit. Hey all, I've been reading a bunch of the responses, but things are getting crazy and increasingly unhinged, so I probably won't be checking in more. Here are a few more answers to common questions I've seen. We were definitely exclusively dating at the time. First, dating culture was a lot different 20-ish years ago, and exclusive was kind of the default for most people. Second, we had a long and difficult discussion before she left for college about continuing the relationship long distance. She specifically wanted to stay together and even joked about her dad coming after me if I started sleeping around with girls at my school. Finally, at my senior prom, she was not able to attend and was very upset when I proposed going with a platonic female friend of mine. As a result, I ended up skipping my prom and hanging out with her instead. While we never said a word exclusive, I think the above reasons, combined with a general relationship before she left, are enough to assume exclusivity. Based on some comments here, I followed up with a friend that said I should have an honest conversation. She told me that 10 guys would be on the low end, and that her biggest concern was that there was apparently at least one pregnancy scare that I didn't know about. I honestly don't think that really changes much. It's less about the number for me, and more about the fact that she seems incapable of recognizing why this was wrong or why I feel betrayed. Thank you all for the helpful responses, even those that disagree with me. I will still be open to therapy if she's willing, but I honestly feel like it would be more about us being successful parents and finding closure than saving our marriage. Now 40 updates a month later. My wife and I are seeing a couples counselor and have been to 3 sessions now. Based on what my original post outlined and what we've talked about in counseling, I'm still moving forward with a divorce. I believe that counseling was the right move, and I appreciate folks for recommending it. I don't think it's going to save our marriage, but it has helped me communicate my feelings, helps my wife understand where I'm coming from, and most importantly, helped us to be in a position to work together as co-parents. First, let's talk about the things I learned about the situation in college. After talking to my wife in sessions and texting with 2 of her roommates, it's clear that her roommates knew something was up in college. They said they thought the situation was weird and likely involved cheating. My wife had told them that we both had some wild times in college and worked it out before we got married, so they never really brought it up. The roommate who pulled me aside recently was uncomfortable with the fact that my wife clearly didn't talk it through with me and wanted me to know. As far as being introduced to the guys she slept with, apparently that was not intended. For one of the guys, he ended up dating and then marrying one of our mutual friends from college. This is the guy she was in contact with. In the other situations, she initially blamed me in the counseling session, but has now agreed it was bad. When I went to visit her, she planned to hang out in the room or just hang out together alone, but I wanted to go to a few parties. Because in high school and community college, I didn't really have parties to go. She didn't expect me to meet the guys, but they were at the parties and she felt she didn't really have a choice. I still think this is kind of crappy, but it's not as bad as her intentionally parading me in front of the guys. Most of our discussion in therapy has been talking about why I think it's a big deal and she doesn't. She initially said that none of these guys were in relationships with her, and it was mostly one-night stands or friends with benefits. Since she didn't view them as romantic relationships, she didn't see the big deal. Her words, not mine. My opinion is that we never said that was okay, and she actively prevented me from doing the same. After digging into this across 2 sessions, and my wife talking to some friends, she now agrees that it was a breach of our trust/relationship. This is the shared understanding that has helped us talk about this situation more honestly and helped us get from arguing to talking, which is why I'm optimistic about co-parenting. Now here's why I'm 100% set on divorce. 2 things came up that make me want to leave the marriage. First, about 10 years ago, we went through a really rough patch and had a dead bedroom for about 2 years. She had expressed that our intimate life was becoming boring, so I tried to spice things up. Apparently, she had been hung up some sexual experiences that happened in college that she is not comfortable talking about and wanted me to try them. But when I did, it made her feel awkward and guilty that it made her think of other men while she was with me. The fact that she's saying these experiences were meaningless, but they're still impacting our marriage, tells me they meant more than she wants to say. Second, she admitted that she has been flirting with coworkers on business trips since the pandemic ended. She says she has never slept with anybody, but it got as far as going on a date with one of her male coworkers. That was the absolute deal breaker for me. We have told our children that we're getting a divorce. We told them it was due to some bad decisions that we made in college that we're having trouble moving past. My 19-year-old who is in college asked me if I cheated on my wife while she was away at college. My wife got a little shaken up but admitted to the kids that she's the one who cheated. We have agreed to not share any additional details with the kids. I reinforced that both of us will be there for the kids and that we are in therapy to help make sure we handle this in the best way for the family. I also told the kids that if they wanted to talk to either of us or a therapist about it, that I would fully support it. We've started talking to a mediator about how to proceed with a divorce. And unless things change, we should be able to have an amicable divorce. We're both financially stable on our own. We have no major debts and our kids are older, so custody isn't a major issue. This has been a crappy couple of months for me, but I'm doing okay now. And I honestly am grateful that my last post blew up because it both validated some of my feelings but also motivated me to go to counseling with my wife. Edit. A couple of things to add in response to comments. I know she probably cheated more than she has admitted. Once our dead bedroom situation from years ago and a date with a coworker came up, I accepted that this has probably been going on at some level for our whole marriage. I'm not glossing over that because I'm an idiot who believes she's telling the whole truth. I have enough truth to know this is the right decision, and that it was more than just college. Adding more detail won't change anything. In this post, the last post, and in a lot of messages, people keep asking if a whole pass would help fix things. It won't. I don't believe that more cheating will solve the trust issues. That may have worked for other people, but I really don't think that's going to help us. My soon-to-be ex and our counselor know about the Reddit posts. I was upfront with both of them about it. I've kept this anonymous enough that I doubt anybody would guess who I really am, and this has helped me process things. In all honesty, seeing both sides of the issue has helped me, and reading the comments on the last post helps my wife better understand some of the frustrations and hurt I feel. I don't necessarily believe sharing all these details in Reddit is the healthiest way to handle a situation, but I don't have many close friends I can share with who aren't also mutual friends with my wife, so this is kind of a way to talk through it. Has she even apologized for everything she put you through? Especially the part where she went on a date with some a-hole? Before our counseling and at the first appointment, she was not apologetic. In the second appointment, the focus was for me to explain the effect it had on me. She has expressed remorse and apologized repeatedly since that session. It's too little too late, but she's not some kind of emotionless monster. Was a slapper, always a slapper. She's well have been cheating the entire marriage. She just ain't owning it, as she knows she couldn't gaslight that way. The fact that the kid automatically asked if he was the one cheating, that would insult the heck out of me. As well rid of that toxic tart. To be fair, my 19-year-old daughter had some issues with crappy boyfriends, who have either cheated or dumped her suddenly to be with somebody else. I'm also the one who left the house. Given her experience with men and the fact that I'm the one who left the house, it makes sense that would be her first thought. When cheating came up, my wife made it clear that she was the one who cheated. To be honest, I'm not really too concerned about the narrative here. From what I can tell, she hasn't said anything bad about me to our kids. In addition, given her admission of recent flirting/cheating and the fact that she's ready to file a joint amicable divorce after 6 weeks and 3 counseling sessions, I think she was ready to move on before I was. It makes the logistics of the divorce easier, but it hurts a bit to realize she's having an easier time walking away from a 20-year marriage than I am. Sorry that it came to this, Opie. Good luck moving forward. Don't be. He's already wasted 20 years. This is for the best. Sucks that it took 20 years though. Clearly his wife cheated physically and emotionally over the years and kept it all from Opie. That would eat me alive inside, even if I kept it to myself. 20 whole years based on deceit and manipulation. Keeping a cheating partner in her life. Makes me wonder if the guy's wife even knows about their intimate past, because most partners wouldn't keep a past sexual partner in their lives. Especially one that a friend knew had a history of cheating. Pretty clear they never told her because the guy blocked Opie's wife immediately. Not only did she cheat back then, but then in therapy admitted to going on a date with a guy and flirting with work dudes. That's messed up. I'm so sorry, brother. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not coming to terms with the fact that my wife cheated on me 14 years ago before our marriage? I, 35 male, am married to my wife, 37 female, for 11 years and together for 14. We have a beautiful 7-year-old daughter, and our marriage has been great without any major problems until last year. Last year, I learned that my wife cheated on me before our marriage. One of her friends became religious and confessed her actions to me, which had me confront my wife. She was shocked that I learned it and apologized profusely about her actions. However, she said it's not something important now because we have been going strong and have a family together. She told me I should come to terms with it since it happened 4 months into being exclusive and she was a stupid girl out of college back then. My mind told me the same. It happened 14 years ago and we were happy right now. So I decided to forgive her and continue our usual life. Reality was not that great though. My mental state took a big hit. I realized it's not something that happened 14 years ago for me. The cheating happened for me when my wife confirmed it. I was less confident, could not be intimate with my wife, just could not get it up for her. This turned into feeling disgusted being around her. I even took a DNA and STD test secretly. Thankfully, our daughter is mine and I'm clear of STD. Then a year of intense individual therapy started for me. I realized I needed to change somehow. I was not the same person I used to be. I also communicated my feelings to my wife, and after pushing a bit, we started going couples counseling too. However, at the end of everything, I decided to proceed with divorce. Here are my reasonings. She not only cheated back then, but lied to me for 14 years. She did not confess the action herself. Even though she apologized, she dismissed the fact by saying it's not important anymore. Young me was robbed of having a choice. Cheating was, and still is, one of the biggest deal breakers for me. If I knew it back then, I would have broke it off. I am happy with my life, and I am glad that our daughter came to the world. She's the light that shines the brightest for me. One of the biggest reasons I keep living. But I still was robbed of a choice back then. Individual and marriage counseling could not fix our problems and my feelings towards her. It also started affecting family life, which could affect our daughter. I think our daughter would be better off having us as co-parents, instead of living in a broken family environment where consistent arguments are present. Life is basically dead for me. We do have sex, but I feel like those women on film/series that just lay and look at a ceiling waiting for it to be over. The only difference is that I'm a man. I do not even want non-sexual gestures anymore. Last week, I had to sit down with my wife and explained everything I wrote here in detail. My feelings, reasonings, and some other private things. I've been talking to a lawyer for the last month, and papers are almost finalized. 50-50 custody, 50-50 assets sharing, and as amicable as possible. I explained everything thoroughly and clearly to her. She freaked out and had a panic attack. We spent the night at a ER. She's begging me to reconsider and not throw away 14 years. However, even though I would like to stay, it will result in us being roommates and a broken family environment for our daughter. Am I in the wrong here? Now for the top comments. This isn't an a-hole or not question. You aren't able to love her the way you did before. You no longer trust her. Your relationship is dysfunctional. Therapy didn't help. Calling you or her an a-hole will solve absolutely nothing. All you can do now is to make the separation as smooth as possible for your daughter. Someone else wrote this in a thread months ago and I still remember it. The affair happened 14 years ago for you. It just happened for me. Like she's had 14 years to process and lie about it, and then to just let it go. For OP, this just happened. He's still dealing with all of it. And not just the affair, but the 14 years of lying by omission too. It's brand new to him. Also OP, not the a-hole. Also, the wife is an a-hole. Not the a-hole, and I'll tell you why. Even though she apologized, she dismissed the fact by saying it's not important anymore. The only thing that infuriates me more than cheating is someone being dismissive of their cheating because it happened so long ago. It's not old news for you. For you, it just happened because you just found out. Now, even if your wife had been truly apologetic and contrite, I would say you weren't the a-hole for not being able to let this go. But the fact that she tried to sweep it under the rug and pretend like it doesn't matter? Huge red flag. Plus, you clearly can't look at her the same way. Get out. It's a shame you couldn't have found out earlier, but at least you know now. End the marriage. It's best for both you and your child. OP tried to make things work, but it's clear his feelings for his wife have fundamentally changed. We can control our action, but not our emotions. Insisting on a loveless marriage can make things even worse. It's more about the 14 years of lying than the cheating. You're still young. Honest love is still waiting for you. Yep, the whole "it happened so long ago" argument doesn't wash. All that does is make me think about every moment, every smile, every look, and how they could have been actively deceiving me about something like this the whole time. If they're capable of lying about something that big, how do I know they're not hiding other things? Frankly, I would probably be less disgusted if my partner came to me and confessed an indiscretion that happened the previous night. I couldn't forgive it either way, but at least they weren't so shameless as to lie about it for over a decade. Don't blame OP in the least.
Relationship advice. Update 2. My female 33 fiancé male 34 found out I pay for my parents' health insurance and said they are financially abusing me. Original post. My fiancé male 34 and I, female 33, have been dating for 3 years and living together for 1. We've been loosely saving to buy a house, and about 2 weeks ago, we decided to sit through our finances and try to draw an actual plan to see if we could save money more consistently and whatnot. As expected, we had a few disagreements on what expenses we should cut, but nothing too big, until he found out I pay for my parents' healthcare insurance, and we have been fighting about it nonstop since then. His main point is that my parents don't need it since our country has universal healthcare, and if they wanted insurance, they could pay it themselves. Although this is true, the public healthcare system is known for being overcrowded, and it can take months until you see a doctor. My dad has diabetes and a heart condition, and I'm afraid he wouldn't get the help he needs fast enough. It's also true they could pay for it, but not without some sacrifice. They're very middle class, and they would probably anyway because my dad is the stoic type. His refusal to get insurance was the reason me and my brother decided to pay for it ourselves. Fiancé also argues that's unfair to spend so much money on them when we're trying to save everything we can for the house, and is cutting all of his extra expenses. But the fact is that, even with insurance, I'm still saving more than him because I earn more. He thinks if I redirect this money to our savings, we could buy our house faster and with less sacrifice, which means he could keep some of the extra money he's putting on the house. I'd rather wait longer if I have to, if it means I can assure better care for my parents if they need it. Plus, that way I'd be paying for more than 2/3 of the house, and I already pay for most of our rent. He thinks I'm being selfish. I think he's being selfish. But what we've been arguing mostly about is he says my parents are taking advantage of me, that they are abusive and controlling of my money, and that I can't start a new family if I don't let go of them and cut the cord. I admit I'm close to my parents. I call them every couple of days, and I used to see them regularly before the pandemic, which fiancé says it proves I'm emotionally dependent on them. But they hardly ask me for money, and I don't pay for anything else except an occasional dinner. He's been sending me articles about helicopter parents and even brought up the time I lived with them as an adult for 2 years. They took me in when I had a major setback at 25 years old and lost my job. When I tell him I don't see that way, he keeps bringing up the fog, which apparently is the inability of abused people to see the acts of the abusers and such. My brother is on my side, but his friends says he's right. I was sure about this, but I don't know anymore. I admit he has some points. Is the fact that my parents don't need the money but I still feel like they do a sign of abuse? He's been also pointing some situations where I reached to them for advice or help as proof that I'm not grown up enough, and even suggested I go non-contact for a while. Not forever. I won't, but I'm starting to feel less inclined to talk to my parents after our arguments. Has anyone been in a situation like this? What did you do? Now for the top advice before reading the first update. I lived with them as an adult for 2 years. They took me in when I had a major setback at 25 years old and lost my job. Your parents had your back when you were in your toughest spot at age 25. That says everything about how much they should mean to you. Your fiancé is talking crazy talk telling you to go no contact with your parents. Plus, that way I'd be paying for more than 2/3 of the house and I already pay for most of our rent. The real issue is your fiancé feels less of an adult with your contributing more financially. I can't start a new family if I don't let go of them and cut the cord. Are you two planning to have children? Is your lifetime goal to have children? Because if you are blindsided by what your fiancé thinks about money, there may be other issues you are overlooking. If having children is your lifetime goal, I advise freezing your eggs to give you more options. The real issue is your fiancé feels less of an adult with your contributing more financially. Yet, he is prepared to allow her to contribute even more financially so that he doesn't have to contribute as much. Girl, this man wants all your money to go towards the savings. You already pay for everything. He wants all the money in the savings. Do not freaking do that. That's a huge setup. You make more than him. He wants the extra money in the joint account. You spend too much money. Do you not see what he's doing? Yikes. You have to watch your back with your husband, since you make more than him. Do you guys have a prenup? We're not married yet. We haven't discussed prenups or anything, but the house is going to be in both of our names. He didn't strike me as a gold digger. He's quite moderate in his spending. But they never do at first, do they? I'll keep that in mind and maybe talk about the prenup after we solve this issue. Thanks. Info. How much does healthcare insurance cost relative to your net income? Info. What is the difference in salary between you two? It does not seem like you're being financially abused. It seems like you recognize that family members help each other. When you lost your job, your parents helped you out. Now it's your turn to help them out. This is not about money for extravagances. This is about health. You should not get married or buy a house together until you are on the same page regarding your finances. I make a bit less than 3 times what he makes, and the insurance costs about 7% of my free income. I don't know how to say it. It's what I get after taxes. It means we may have to save for a bit more time, maybe a year more, if neither of us get any raise. And I would also be fine if he says he doesn't want to put all he can and save some for something he thinks is important. But his issue seems to be more about where the money is going than how much is it. I'm rethinking that after all these comments about him being interested on the money though. Now for the first update. We had agreed on a truce so we could spend holidays in peace, since we were isolated and it was going to just be him and me. Christmas was relatively okay, but the next day my mom sent us some leftovers from their dinner, which turned out to be a full meal that she clearly cooked for us. Fiancé got pissed about it. We argued once again about my parents being controlling. He said they couldn't leave us alone to even have a holiday in peace, and how I wasn't grown up enough to make myself a dinner and my mom had to send food. I'm not a great cook, but I get by and I did make us dinner the night before. I never depended on my mom to feed us. But he brought up other occasions where my mom had sent us food, and that's not something you do for adult children. He also said he can't trust me with the money after what he found out and insinuated he would be the one in charge of our finances once we got married. But he backed off when he saw how mad I got. Long story short, we argued for a couple more days about it, and I ended up leaving the apartment. We didn't officially break up, but it's been several weeks and it looks permanent. He reached out a couple of times to see if I had come to my senses, but every attempt at a talk turned into another argument, and I'm just tired. I rented another place and haven't told anyone about what happened yet, but apparently he did, because I got some nasty messages from a few of his friends. So I guess he already made up his mind. Most of my things are still at the apartment, I hope, so I still have to figure that out. I'm just living day by day. It's hard wrapping my mind around the whole situation because it doesn't make sense to me. It does not seem like a good enough reason to break up a 3 years relationship, but it is what it is. Thanks to everyone who helped me on my original post. I guess you all saw this coming. Edit. Some people came up with the fair point that this is only my POV, which is true, but I don't have a neutral third party to ask about it, because the only people I think know what's happening are my brother and my fiance's friends. So, not really unbiased. But there's an important thing that I left out because I don't want to think is the reason for all of this, but maybe it is. My parents are not my bio parents. My mom is my bio mom's sister, who looked out for us when things got bad at home, until she took my brother and I in when I was a teenager. Bio mom is an addict, in and out of the picture, but mostly out for the past 10 years. I lent her money about 5 years ago, and I know I'm not ever seeing that money back. I know my brother did the same on a couple of occasions. Does that change everything? Most people are saying it's a normal thing for parents to do, but maybe it's not normal if they are not your real parents? Maybe that's what bothers my fiancé. I never asked because I'm afraid of the answer. Also, he knew about the money I gave my bio mom, so he might see it as a pattern of me freely giving money to my family. Just to be clear, he never said any of it, although I think that's what he meant when he said I can't be trusted with money. But I got so mad didn't delve into the subject. I'm very aware that because of my background, I'm prone to be in abusive relationships. I'm just trying to figure out if it's my family or my significant other. I'm also aware I need to go back to therapy. I stopped during COVID. That was a mistake. Now for some advice before reading the final update. He reached out a couple of times to see if I had come to my senses. Answer should be, yes, we're done. Yep, up along with being a good girl. This is a typical abuser language. You make 2/3 of the income, make most of the bills, and he can't trust you with money? The only person here who is being financially abusive or controlling is him. He is trying to cut you off from normal and healthy relationships in an effort to control you. He sure as hell is not entitled to tell you what to spend your money on when you already pay more than half the bills. If he comes back, kick his behind to the curb. You do not need that kind of abusive, controlling person in your life. There is nothing wrong with a parent sending their child food either. My mom used to send me home with things she cooked for me, and she even made food for my brother and his wife. Frozen casserole so they had a break once in a while. She didn't dictate how or when we should eat it. I bet it's pissed you were paying most of the bills. For Pete's sake. Now for the final update. So last time people were very nice, reaching out and opening my eyes to the situation, and they brought up a lot of things I wasn't thinking about. So I thought you deserve some closure, even if it's not a very positive one. I tried to solve the old apartment issue first, because as some people guessed, I was still paying for it, mostly to avoid a conversation. I texted him asking for a good time to go over and pick up my stuff and talk about financial agreements. He called me immediately and asked if I was breaking up with him. Like, you did it already? So we started arguing over the phone, until he suggested I come over so we could settle things properly. So I went by myself. Such a good idea. Surprising nobody. Talking in person didn't change anything, and we kept fighting just the same. Except he was becoming more and more aggressive because I was standing my ground in us breaking up. He said some pretty harsh and defensive things, which he never did before. And it hurt, but only confirmed my decision. Until he said that he talked to my brother about us, and that totally set me off. He said my brother agreed with him that my parents were overbearing and even agreed to back off for a while to let me grow up. I guess he thought that having my brother on his side would convince me he was right. It was such an obvious lie, but I was suddenly filled with utter terror that my brother shared his opinion about me, or would want to get away from me, or I don't know. I knew it wasn't true, but at the same time, the mere idea of a world where this would happen completely shattered me. I don't know. Anyway, I started to hyperventilating while he was talking, and since I was unable to respond, he just went on and on about how things were going to work from now on. It was things I don't want to repeat. At some point, I just dissociated, like I used to when I was a kid and the abuse got really bad, and can't remember almost anything after that. All I remember was pressing the phone on my face really hard. Apparently, I called sister-in-law at her work and didn't say anything, so she sent my brother to check on me, and he took me to the hospital. I'm getting better now, but I'm having a lot of PTSD episodes. Mostly, I'm having a hard time accepting how he could be so manipulative, and I never knew. My brother and sister-in-law think he set me off on purpose, as he knew my past and all my triggers. I don't want that to be true, but I have a flash of memory where I'm crawling away from him because I couldn't speak, and he just sort of laughed and kept talking. I know memories from dissociative episodes can't be trusted though. I finally went to the older apartment over the weekend again with my brother and his friends and took everything that's mine. My ex was nowhere to be seen, and it looked like he hasn't been over in a while. This week, I'll talk to the landlord about the rent, and my brother is helping me deal with our joint account. We don't have anything else connecting us, so I think that's it. I've been on medication, which I hate, but I like to think I've overcome worse scenarios. I guess at the end, my ex kind of had a point about me being emotionally dependent on my family. He just missed the target. Thanks to everyone who gave advice and tried to help. I won't be updating this anymore. Now for closing comments. I'm so sorry he treated you like that. Give your sister-in-law and brother and especially your parents a hug as soon as it's safe. You should feel proud you stood up so well. Stood up for yourself and for your family. Your ex had no point about you being dependent. He was just trying to bring you down and isolate you. Having family to lean on during a difficult time like this is a completely natural thing to do. None of those things he said had any basis in reality. I'm very sorry this happened to you, but you're already moving on and doing a great job. You are stronger than you think. Good luck. I read all of your posts, and I'm so glad you have such a strong and supportive family structure. I'm also glad you didn't let that little turd ruin your relationship with your amazing supportive family. I hope things get better for you from here. Thank you so much. I hope so too. My brother and sister-in-law think he set me off on purpose, as he knew my past and all my triggers. And he was laughing at one point? He's a sociopath. File a restraining order now. Well, I can't be sure about that. I don't have a clear memory about it. My first thought is that it was a fight that got out of hand. He hasn't contacted me ever since. Now for the last story. Father-in-law is living with us. It's driving me crazy and slowly destroying my family life and my mental health. Bit of background. Me, female 30, live with my long-term partner, male 30, and our little boy. My partner's parents moved back from abroad last year, and they were staying with my partner's brother, sorting out where they were going to live. And then in October last year, they had a huge fight and decided that they were going to separate. My partner's brother chucked his dad out and allowed his mom to stay. And we were not given any choice but to take his dad in. I have never really got on with his dad, and I didn't want his dad to stay with us as I knew that things would end up how they are now. His dad has savings and a small income, so could afford to rent a small place somewhere, but my partner would not let his dad do this. I was overruled when I said that I didn't want him to stay. My partner said that as soon as his dad gets a job, he can find somewhere to live. But he is being unrealistic in the jobs he wants to get. His dad has now been with us for 4 months, and there has been mounting problems ever since. His dad is very controlling. He has tried to take over all the day-to-day running of the house, which I have kicked back at, as it is not his house. I'm not against him helping out, but not to take full control. His dad also likes to stay up for the majority of the night, so sleeps until at least midday. Luckily, my son is still able to go to nursery during the week, but we have to try, I don't bother anymore, to keep him quiet at the weekend so my partner's dad can sleep. He undermines us constantly with our little one. For example, we will ask our little one to do something, or he will be in the process of doing something, and my partner's dad will distract him or try to get him to do something else. He will tell our son not to listen to mommy and daddy. He will also get our son to break the rules, such as no throwing balls in the house, no sliding down the stairs, and other things like that. He has also got a thing about our son being underweight. Our son is not underweight. He is a healthy, very active petite kid who eats loads. However, he is trying to take on a role of getting our son to eat. I am furious, and I have discussed this with my partner, and he doesn't see it as a problem. But I am so annoyed, as it is not his father's place to do anything. So ultimately, I am frustrated, angry, feel like I'm being judged constantly in my parenting skills by his father. My mental health is suffering. My relationship with my partner and my child is suffering. I feel like I can't be the mom I want to be, as I constantly feel anxious and on edge. I feel uncomfortable in my own home. I don't feel like I can relax. I have spoken to my partner a few times now about it, and he just tries to blow me off most of the time, and that he doesn't understand where I'm coming from. That a lot of it is just in my head. That his dad is trying to find a job, etc., etc. It came to a head last night where we had another massive argument about it. I don't think I can even be the same room as his dad anymore, as I don't think I can control myself, as I just want to tell him to get out of my house. It has got to the point where if I never see my partner's father ever again, it wouldn't bother me. So where do I go from here? I have thought about leaving, but I don't want to leave my child or uproot my child from a normally fun and loving home. Now for the top advice before reading the little update. Sit down with Hubs with father around. Tell Hubs you can't live this way. If you have family you can stay with, take the baby and go relax for a bit. Get a hotel if you need to. Let Hubs know you will be back when father-in-law leaves. Father-in-law doesn't plan to leave, and I think you have a sense about that too. The fact that you weren't even asked and shut down several times about him to leave isn't okay. Also, this isn't a loving fun home. Baby has a mother whose mental health is suffering. Baby has a grandfather who undermines mom at every turn. The fact that you weren't even asked and shut down several times about him to leave isn't okay. Yeah, that would be such a major deal breaker for me. Her wishes were totally ignored in a marriage. Sounds like the husband is an a-hole that doesn't care about her opinion. You don't have to go through this. You are a second-class citizen in your own home, like a child with no say. On the top of that, your authority as a parent is being demolished, which is very bad for the kid. And your role as an equal in the house is gone. For all that, I'd tell your husband that you can't take it anymore, and that if by Friday morning father-in-law is not out, then you and the kid will be out. No need to make a big scene. Just as calmly as you can inform him of your decision. Whatever he says, you just say, yes, but if he's not gone by Friday morning, we are leaving, and try to kill the conversation. Why? Because your husband doesn't listen to words anymore, and therefore you should start talking him through actions. So, if Friday morning you wake up and father-in-law is still there, you don't argue, you don't get into any debate, you don't make a scene. Pack a bag and go. You have no other option. Living like this is hell. He is making you do this, basically. This will not change until you leave. You can't give an ultimatum. You can't even have a conversation. You need to leave. It is possible that your partner, odd word in a relationship where your mate treats you like the maid, will come to his senses until you have gone. He will never make the right choice about his father if you don't. Update. Just wanted to thank you all for the replies. My current plan of action is to get some legal advice regarding custody of my child, and also about our house as we have joint ownership, but we are not married. Once I know where I stand when it comes to this, I will sit down with my partner and discuss everything covered in this and how it has and is affecting me and our son. Then give him an ultimatum that his father needs to move out in 30 days, or me and our son will be moving out and not returning until his father is gone. My mom lives locally and has said that we can stay for a month or two while we find somewhere more permanent if required. Also, that some sort of couples counseling will be on the cards too. Thanks everyone. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.